Hi, my name is Vedika.
My name is Kana.
Hi, my name is Vedika.
And my name is Ria. This video is about FDR and the New Deal.
On March 4, 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt declared during his inaugural speech
that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
As the nation's 32nd president, FDR promised that he would act swiftly to face the dark realities of the moment and assured Americans that he would wage a war against the emergency just as though we were in fact invaded by a foreign foe. Because of his inspiring words, many Americans felt confident that they had elected a man who was not afraid to take bold steps to solve the nation's problems.
After the stock market crash of October 1929, millions of investors were wiped out and the United States fell into what we know today as the Great Depression.
The economic depression lasted until the late 1930s. As investment and industrial output declined, failing companies fired workers, causing millions of people to become unemployed and homeless. Customers withdrew their deposits and banks became unable to make loans. The failure of banks to provide services caused Americans to distrust them. In addition, the Dust Bowl, a period of severe dust storms, greatly damaged agriculture, worsening this economic depression.
Then, in 1913, Franklin D. Roosevelt arrived at the White House with a 100-day plan. Roosevelt's goals included relief, recovery, and reform. This immediate action plan, which consisted of a series of social programs that showed how he would provide direct federal relief to the people from the Great Depression, is known as the New Deal. His plan was meant to reform American capitalism instead of replacing it with a socialist system.
American and national identity.
American identity evolved during the 30s as FDR and his presidency redefined the role of the federal government in the lives of Americans. In the 1920s, the government had traded being an active agent of change for cooperating with big business. However, as a response to the Great Depression, the United States developed into a nation with a strong central government that was capable of overcoming economic depression with improved legislation. Perhaps most importantly, people started regarding the government as a welfare agency that was obligated to help them in times of need.
However, welfare programs also led to a clash in interests between classes. The Agricultural Adjustment Act worked to rid farmers of surplus livestock, and the Federal Emergency Relief Administration provided funding for higher wages and higher employment. These acts left the upper class feeling ignored by the federal government, and they strove to show off their wealth even more, which had been relatively untouched even after the stock market crash. This led to even more tension, sometimes culminating in violence, such as the Memorial Day Massacre in Chicago.
Also, women were faced with the responsibility of keeping their families together. While some worked, most stayed as housewives.
It is women's determination that has pulled us through time and time again from crises worse than this one, Eleanor Roosevelt said proudly.
Women would find ways to spend less money on food. Unmarried women were at a disadvantage. If women tried to get jobs, they were scorned for trying to take the jobs away from the more deserving men. While some got jobs in women-dominated fields, most merely faded into the shadows.
As had become usual in American history, African Americans suffered more than any other group. Black wages were lower than white wages, and public works projects rarely benefited them. In addition, blacks who tried to unionize found themselves targets of lynch mobs. However, when communist groups started helping blacks, the federal government jumped in, tailoring the New Deal to help African American interests as well. Moreover, black identity became grounded in a sense of community, and they helped each other through tough times by caring for each other's children and sharing family resources with other blacks.
Politics and power.
While public opinion for FDR's policies was generally positive, the New Deal was somewhat controversial. Various groups opposed the New Deal as a threat to state rights. In 1934, leaders of several major corporations joined former presidential candidate Alfred Smith and conservative Democrats to establish the American Liberty League. The American Liberty League attacked the New Deal as a threat to not only state rights but also to free enterprise and open shop. They campaigned against the New Deal's radicalism, fearing that FDR was leading the United States towards socialism, bankruptcy, and dictatorship. The League had also been gearing up for the election of 1936 by attempting to secure either uncommitted or anti-New Deal delegations to the 1936 Democratic Convention in Philadelphia. Socialists and communists also criticized the New Deal for trying to save capitalism instead of working to lessen the inequality of power and wealth in the American society.
In response to this criticism, Roosevelt made several attacks on big business in the hopes to sway voters for the approaching 1936 election. Denouncing entrenched greed and the unjust concentration of wealth and power, he proposed that government should cut the giants down to size through antitrust suits and heavy corporate taxes. The Wealth Tax Act, which helped achieve a redistribution of income by raising the income taxes of the wealthy, was one way he achieved it. While his policies favored the common people, they turned many businessmen against Democrats.